All right. Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for attending our customer brown bag through Sumo Logic. My name is Lisa Carnes, and I'm going to get things kicked off here for us. We are going to be focusing on security today. And I'm super excited to be working with JT. He's one of our security product managers. And today he's going to be covering general best practices and mindsets around security. He'll also show our security app catalog. I also forgot one important thing. For those of you, when this is your first time coming to one of our sessions, we launched our customer brown bag series in the beginning of April, and we have them on every second, third, and fourth Tuesday of the month. And each of those Tuesdays is a certain category. So we'll either do logs, security, or logging, security, or observability. So today's is on security. One quick note just about our holiday schedule coming up. We are going to change it slightly. So for November, we're going to have it on the first Tuesday and the second Tuesday. Same for December, the first Tuesday and the second Tuesday, just because we want to be mindful of people taking time off and spending time with their family towards the end of both of those months. So that'll start in November, first and second Tuesdays. But I think that's all that I need to cover. Oh, and then if you have any questions, of course, please put them in the chat. You can use the Q&A. I'll be looking at the questions and interrupting JT if I need to. Remember that this is an hour or 30 minutes to an hour for you all to spend some technical time with our technical guest or our teacher or our SME. All right, enough rambling on my end. Go ahead, JT.
All right. Well, this is my first brown bag with everyone. So hopefully I get to see you all or interact with you all again in the future. So on that bombshell, let's get started, shall we? So I don't know how extensive, shall we say, everyone's security experiences. So I kind of wanted to just cover the gamut of just, what is good security hygiene like? And then of course, as you all know, since you are all Sumo customers, right? How can this parlay itself into what you use Sumo for each and every day? So, memes aside, I don't know if anyone watched Mad TV back in the day with Angela Johnson. She was on there and she had the whole like security thing. Anyway, I thought it would be fun. So yeah, realistically, these numbers that you're seeing, like 4.5 roughly million for the average cost of a data breach, is this really going to apply to smaller businesses? Probably not, right? So these are going to be for folks who are really in that enterprise category. I'm sure you've heard recently of a number of breaches. Most notably, I think MGM comes to mind over in Vegas. They got hacked basically by someone calling the help desk, phone line and saying, "Hey, please reset my password. I can't get in," and they did it, right? So if you guys haven't read up on that one, I highly recommend it. Maybe for a nice after work beverage session, perhaps. It's slightly comical. So anyway, but yeah, unsurprisingly, right? 94% of major breaches, or actually any breaches, this is all taken from the Verizon DBIR report from this year. Bad actors, they want cash, right? And by hook or by crook, they're going to try to get it. So this could lead to ransomware, which we'll talk about, I believe, in my next slide here. But this also can just be stealing credentials to go sell on the black market, right? So there's a whole just range of different things that any sort of hacker, bad actor, whatever you want to call them, threat actors, that they're going to use to get paid, right? That's why they're doing this. So when you think about it, though, I have this next stat here. The average number of SaaS apps for enterprises, it's 315. And what I like to say when I talk to people about this is like, well, okay, if you ask like a little kid to count to 100, they go 1, 2, skip a few 100, right? They kind of just stop caring after they get past a couple, right? So if you imagine having to go to 315 separate apps or services, right, in your environment to make sure that everything is secure, you're going to lose your mind. Now, some folks, I believe Michael here said that he's using the Sumo Logic platform. Thank you very much, Michael. We appreciate that. And one of the things that Sumo is really good at doing is pulling all of the data into one single place, so it's way easier to manage. You're not going to 315 separate locations. You're just going to one. And Sumo does that heavy lifting for you, right? So if you caught, there was a little comment about clouds there at the nice day at the breach. So moving into the cloud, right? It's a completely different cybersecurity game than what we used to play when everything was on-prem. Now, I'm not trying to be pedantic, because I was speaking with a fellow from AWS security not too long ago, and he typified this in a way that I've never heard before, and I just fell in love immediately with the description. Back in the day when we had on-prem security, right, it was all about a perimeter, right? One single perimeter. I mean, you could even take it all the way back to like when we had mainframe computers. There are these giant things that had to be held in like basements or something, and there was literally a perimeter. There were armed guards, protecting secrets of national importance and all that other stuff, right? So the physical access was the thing that you could control. But when you take it to the cloud, as kind of shown here with the AWS shared responsibility model, you now have micro perimeters. So take it back now to those 315 different apps, right, and services. Each one of those has a micro perimeter that you need to secure, right? So again, how do you do that? Well, you could throw bodies at the problem. Just, if you have cash to burn, you want to do that, hey, sounds good, right? But I think we can do a little bit better. And since again, you guys are all Sumo customers, hopefully this isn't net new to you. One other important thing that I want to call out is this is the devil's really in the details, I feel, with this shared responsibility model. And it doesn't matter whether you're on AWS, Azure, GCP. I mean, Sumo, we're a big AWS shop. We love AWS. We launched in the cloud. I want to say almost 13 years ago now. It's about 12, but going on 13. And so, we absolutely love AWS. But really the thing is, as it says here, AWS is responsible for the security of the cloud, right? And you can see all of the infrastructure, basically, that's what they're responsible for securing, right? However, any of your data, right, whatever the security is of in the cloud, falls solely to the customer. All right. So we talked a lot about enterprises, right? Big companies, big ransoms, but let's talk a little bit about smaller shops, right? So one of the things that's interesting, and again, this is going back to the DBIR report from Verizon, the vast majority of attacks on small businesses are system intrusion, social engineering, aka lying. That's a fancy term for that, right? Basic web app attacks. And this is how people, or bad actors, are going after small businesses, right? But the payouts can still be substantial for smaller businesses. The median payout in a ransomware situation was $26,000. I would love to be able to just be like, yeah, sure, here's 26 grand, go away, give me my data back, right? And I think it's also worth noting in ransomware scenarios, whether if you're responsible for dealing with this or not, whether you or your organization chooses to pay, that's up to you. I can't answer that for you. I can't recommend whether you do or you don't, right? This is just what the data says. And of course, everything is linked, and I'm more than happy to share the direct links and everything, so you all can take a gander when you have free time. And I've been saying ransomware a lot, and that's because we find that it is prolific, right, when it comes to the vast majority of attacks. basically in about a quarter of all breaches, ransomware is somewhere in there, right? It's in the top 3 attack vectors from the DBIR, and it affects organizations of every size, right? Mom and pop shops all the way up to full-blown enterprises. So this kind of goes to show, in some semblance, I would say, it's the age-old verbiage of, it's not, if you're attacked, it's going to be when you're attacked. And so again, I like to have fun with it and have a little meme in there. And this is, I'm sure Lisa probably has seen this, too, but like, you have that friend, or maybe it's a parent or something, and they call you and they're like, hey, my Netflix password got stolen and someone's, using it in blah blah country or whatever. And you're like, well, did you click on a funny email? Well, yeah, it looked a little weird. Well, don't click on it, just stop doing that. And it's also funny, the Verizon report, again, kind of takes a cheeky tone with it. But essentially it's just, they see phishing as a top attack vector, right? That's social engineering. They see that as a top attack vector year over year over year, right? It's not going away. And what that really means is that even though you have, best of breed security tools, you can be armed to the teeth basically with everything that's out there, but it's not going to do you any good if your employees don't actually follow through with whatever security frameworks you implement, if there's any specific protocols, right? If they're not practicing good security hygiene, it doesn't matter what you have, right? So moving on, we've got some challenges, and of course, Sumo addresses all of these with miraculous speed and agility. So we've already talked about complexity. I'm not going to beat that. I'm not going to beat that dead horse. And I know in one of the previous sessions, I believe we had Peter Casimir, who's one of our principal product managers. He was talking about our cloud SIM capability, UBA, right? User and entity behavioral analytics, right? And UBA really comes into its own with the 4th bullet point here and the 2nd bullet point, but more so the 4th, right? It's detect the undetected, right? It's using a behavioral baseline and then seeing when user behaviors deviate from that, right? Those anomalies are then surfaced as alerts saying you should go check this out, right? So if you folks have not seen that one, or if you weren't on that call, I highly recommend it. Peter goes into great detail on that one, so I won't steal his thunder. And then, yeah, of course, one of the things that we see with certain other vendors, maybe one that starts with an S, ends with a K, and has ung in the middle, that was recently purchased by Cisco for, I think, the tune of 28 billion, I want to say. Anyway, I don't know who they are, but they're a silly company. But there's the joke that, like, should Cisco just renew their Splunk license, or should they just go acquire Splunk, right, for cheaper? So they bought the company. And we know, I think you all will probably resonate with this. Some security tools, these point solutions, can be prohibitively expensive, right? And with Sumo, we've really invested the time and effort to make sure that our data tiering is available so that you can maximize the efficacy of our tool, right, within your budget. That's the whole deal. So no matter where you are in your security journey, I'd love to find out also, for everyone listening, just drop it in the chat. What Sumo products are you using right now? Where do you want to go? This would all be great info for us, and I'm sure if you'd like someone to follow up and maybe discuss that with you, I'm sure I can orchestrate it. But anyway, to begin at the beginning, Sumo centralizes logs better than the rest of them, hands down, bar none, full stop. I'm out of euphemisms. But the point is, right, we centralize all your logs in our security data lake. so that everything is all in one place. From there, you can run your analytics to your heart's content, right? And again, whether you're more in the DevOps side, if you're in SecOps, maybe you have a hybrid role, you're DevSecOps, or perhaps you might be a security engineer that's embedded in an IT team. I do know a lot of our customers that really fits the profile for our kind of entry level security product, right? So these are going to be more from companies that have an emerging security practice, not a full-fledged SOC. So I would again love to hear where you guys are all coming from. So anyway, once you get all your logs dumped into one place, you can start gaining access to basically the full infrastructure visibility for your cloud instance, right? Wherever it is, whether you're an AWS shop, maybe you're multi-cloud, we can do it all. From there, you'd move on to something more like our Cloud SIM offering. And so I talked about the Yuba capabilities with Cloud SIM. There's a whole ton of other goodness with Cloud SIM. I'm fairly certain that there's been a Cloud SIM brown bag as well. So I won't really hit that one too much, but tons of capabilities. And of course, what's different from most legacy SIMs is ours runs fully in the cloud, right? So you get that speed. And on top of that, drum roll, please. If you're all drumming, I can't hear, but that's okay. I'm imagining it. On top of that, we have all of the advanced analytics, right? So it's not just, okay, look, we're going to, do some minor threat hunting, right? You can get really deep into the weeds with our Cloud SIM. You can fine tune the rules to make sure that the alerts are firing appropriately, and make sure that you're cutting through the noise, right? So no more alert fatigue. Anyway, and of course, last but not least, I'm going to call out our friend Michael there in the chat. He's using our source solution. Thank you very much. Respond to incidents as quickly as possible, right? We have automated playbooks that you can run, of course, in SOAR, and we have a limited subset of that available in SIM, right? So this is all about leveraging the tools that we have available without the sweat equity, right? So now when I was going to say when something hits the fan, but when things aren't going your way, right? Help is a click away. So you can just move through that, run your playbook, and really divide and conquer with the folks that you have available on hand. So without further ado, let's talk about the app catalog. So there's an app for that. I think that was Apple. Don't sue me. Don't sue me, Steve Jobs. I don't know if I have to worry about that too much. But anyway, so if everyone hasn't seen the app catalog, I highly recommend checking it out. We're going to go through a little demo in just a quick second. But this is where we offer apps for all sorts of different use cases. We're going to be kind of focusing a little more on security. We are currently going through updating all of our apps to a new framework. So they will all be this kind of next gen app. So that is something that we're moving through. So stay tuned on those. But yeah, let's get into it, shall we? Just gonna hop on over here and move this thing out of the way because that's how Zoom works. All right, so this is the app catalog that's actually within the Sumo product. So to get here, if you don't know, just come on down to app catalog. You would click that and it'll pull it up for you. And again, you can filter by any one of the different categories we have here on the left-hand side. If you know exactly what sort of app you're looking for and what you'd like to connect to, you can feel free to search it. So if I want to do firewall, we've got AWS, we've got Barracuda, we've got Google, right? So anything under the sun, search for it, it'll populate, or feel free to slice and dice by security. We've got a ton of these classic apps, which, like I mentioned, these are all going to be migrated to the new app framework. And beyond that, I mean, installation is as easy as selecting the app you like, clicking install, going through the flow, selecting your source categories, right? You'd click through next, This is also our demo environment, so I think there might be one additional step in your instance of Sumo. But once you set that up, it's good to go. So something else I do really quickly want to call everyone's attention to as we kind of wrap up here, this is our community ecosystem. This was launched a little while ago without too much fanfare, which makes me a little sad because it's pretty awesome. So this is really where, this is where you all as Super Sumo Power users can take all the goodness from the Sumo that you know and let the rest of the world know about it, right? And so you can create your own apps and then we'll list them here and other folks can come on in, check them out, rate them, download them, and run them. So let me oh yeah, no, awesome. Lisa is already on it. She dropped it in the chat. Yeah. So again, did it open
Oh,
a
wait,
second?
no, I I did a different one. Can
Oh,
you
you
do
did?
that one? Yeah,
Yeah,
please. Thank
no
you.
problem. No problem. Um, so there you go. That's the community ecosystem. So yeah, I highly recommend checking that out if and when you have the time. So on that bombshell, wow, 2 bombshells, 1 presentation. Who'd have thunk it? That's the demo. Skipped ahead. So security practices. What exactly can we do? I wanted to break it down into 3 main categories, right? And hopefully this is nothing new for everyone. Hopefully you're all doing this already. Because like I mentioned, even if you have the best security tools in the world, even if you're using Sumo, right? It's really only as good as your people. So to that end, you've got some software and firmware updates. Make sure those are always patched and up to date, right? Companies have been doing a very good job. I was just lamenting, earlier to Lisa about upgrading my phone and having to go through all this other stuff and get everything re-authenticated. So companies are doing a very good job of making sure that they're patching vulnerabilities as quickly as possible, right? But that doesn't work if you're not actually doing the updates yourself, right? If you're letting your Google Chrome go into the red, it starts screaming at you. It's like, update me now. So always stay up to date, when you can, and make sure you always have your backups in place, right? Get all that critical data backed up. For smaller shops, it's going to be a much smaller volume of data. For enterprises, it's going to be obviously a much larger volume of data. But really, you want things like anything that's going to make sure that your business can keep the lights on if and when a ransomware attack occurs, right? And the reason I again bring up more ransomware is when a bad actor gets in, what's their next move once they've gotten access? They encrypt all your stuff, right? So you want to make sure that you can restore an unencrypted version to make sure that everything's going to keep functioning as smoothly as possible, right? Also, I do this. I hope you all do as well. I have my Google Alerts configured, so I get the news for latest breaches and some other keywords directly to my inbox every day at 6 a.m. Pacific. So I highly recommend you do that for whatever your specific industry is. Also, and insofar as staying informed, if you don't check out the Verizon report or CrowdStrike has a good threat intel report, IBM also has an annual report that they put out for security. Please read those, especially where relevant for your industry, so you can learn just what are the latest trends, what are bad actors trying to do to exploit your company, essentially, right? Last but not least, this is really where people come in, right? So if you don't have anything that has any sort of role-based access control, which since you're all Sumo users, you do. I don't know if all of you knew that, but you do have RBACs in Sumo. So yeah, make sure that credentials are rotated accordingly. Make sure that people aren't escalating privileges unnecessarily. Again, something that Yuba could help out with, because there's always some sort of escalation path, right? Once a user is compromised, if a bad actor doesn't have, let's just say, root access, they're going to need a way to get there, right? So they're going to start trying to escalate their privileges. So things like that, having I wouldn't say annual reviews, that's probably too infrequent. maybe a quarterly review to make sure that everything's where it needs to be and people have the correct privileges. Um, so then also, I'm sure we've all had the security onboarding experience where you have to watch some videos, right? And they're like, oh, what was wrong in this scenario? They left their laptop on, unlocked in a busy cafe or something like that. Don't do that, right? But people get complacent, right? People start to, it's very de rigueur. It's just another thing, especially with work from home nowadays, where we have either fully remote work or hybrid working conditions. People are like, it's my home, it's safe, right? Do you have kids? How do you know that they're not going to go mess around on your computer doing something else, right? Also, part and parcel with that is, you have hybrid work, but now you also have to have hybrid security. You have to not only secure whatever is, in the office, but you have to make sure that your employees are securing their local working environments as well, right? So, make sure that if you're using a router, all of that stuff is properly password protected, right? And don't share your passwords. Don't tell people who you are on the internet. Don't use your real address. All the stuff, right, that you've been hearing time and time again. We get very, very lax with that. So part of that, is doing audits as well. I know personally here at Sumo, we have a wonderful team who does little phishing drills, and I see Lisa smiling and nodding, and
We just got that one for Halloween Spirit, the 50%
yeah,
off, like referred by a friend. And I was like, this looks suspect.
yeah. Because I was like, also, why do my friends have my email address? I don't like
Yeah,
I don't like any of
yeah.
my friends,
And then I forwarded it to phishing and got an email back saying, good job, you passed our
Yeah,
test.
yeah. So, doing things like that. And you don't need to have, very sophisticated, right, technologies to do all of that. You could just pull up an instance of Chat GPT, feed it a few bits of information, and it'll write you a very, very accurate email, right? Which I'm also not advising you do for nefarious purposes. Don't do it. So, last but not least, practice, 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 right? Um, do it consistently. Make sure that with whatever you choose to implement, it doesn't matter, what security framework you're working within. It doesn't matter really what your policies and procedures are. Make sure that you're drilling this so that if the time arises, or when the time arises, right, everybody knows exactly what they're supposed to do and they can follow through with that appropriately, right? So I hope that all of this was at least somewhat informative. I hope that as well. You guys go check out the app catalog. And yeah, don't get hacked, you know?
That's
Okay.
awesome, PT. Thank
Yeah,
you.
no
Well,
problem.
we still have lots of time. Of course, we don't need to go the whole hour, and we will not. But we have plenty of extra minutes for questions. So feel free to pop them in the chat if you'd like JT to review a certain concept again or show you the app catalog again. We'll hang out here for another 2 minutes in case people are typing their questions. Otherwise, we hope everyone has a great day. But again, we'll stay on for another minute or two if anyone wants us to dive into something again.
Yes. All right. I see Garrett. All right. Yes, the link to the community page is what I just posted. So let me see. I'll repost it. Link. Oops, I can't spell, to the community ecosystem system. There we go. Awesome. So yeah, no, I definitely like to know what products and what use cases you guys have with Sumo as well. I'm curious. That'd be really cool.
I saw, I think he left already, but I did see one of my customers that I support on here. They use Sumo SIP for their security. And then also they have a DevOps team too
Oh, nice.
that uses this SRE team specifically. But the person that was on the security team.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
I recognize a couple folks on here too. We have some repeat brown bag visitors. Thank you for continuing to come.
Oh, yes. Okay, I also see Michael has dropped one in the Q&A.
Oh, okay, there it is.
All right. So are all next gen apps going to be open telemetry based integrations? Yes, that is correct. We are moving to OTel. There is a sunset on the installed collectors, I believe. And really, it's just a way to get the data in, right? And you can always pull something in with syslog, right, if you really need to. So that's still going to be an option even after we move to hotel. Great question. Correct. I believe that is correct. It will not impact the hosted collectors. Yes.
And then there's also one in the regular chat now too,
All
GT.
right. We're creating an offboarding. You're creating a offboarding users dashboard, trying to get the table array aspect in order to call those specific users for our dashboard rather than just creating long lists, query variable. Any advice? That is a really good question, Garrett. That is so good. That is beyond my wheelhouse, specifically with what you're trying to do. Let me take this and follow up with you on that. Let me ping
Yeah, what we could do, JT, is I'll look up who their account manager or their account team is at Sumo, and we can have that specific question addressed for you, Garrett. No problem.
yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Any other questions from the group? Okay, I think we should be able to call it. I'll go ahead and stop recording.